Alright, hello everyone, it's Diamond, and today I'm going to be talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, specifically talking about JoJo Part 2, Battle Tendency, and why I think it was my favorite. Even looking back now, seeing parts 1 through 5, I'd probably still say this is my favorite one. Without further ado, let's talk about what made Part 2 so good. So, already with our main protagonist, Joseph, he's a lot different from Part 1's protagonist, Jonathan, whereas Jonathan was more polite and his goal was to become a gentleman. And we've seen throughout Part 1 that he is like a kind person. Almost like a gentle giant in a way. Part 2 comes around, and then it's the complete opposite of Jonathan, because Joseph is the grandson of him. So when we do see him, his attitude is a little bit nasty, he's a bit unpredictable. He has Hamon as well, but his character is like a complete 180 from Jonathan. And I thought that was pretty cool, showing him as a completely new character with different goals, different personalities. He's more of a jokester. There are scenes where he's very unpredictable, such as when he ends up fighting some of the villains throughout Part 2, as well as how he delivers his jokes, such as during the fight he'll say something, for example, like he'll say, "I know what you're going to say next," and he'll say out loud just what exactly they're gonna say, and they end up repeating it, and that becomes like one of the running jokes throughout Part 2. So I do think that the comedy, because there are some funny moments besides that, there are some funny moments as well. So such as the way how he's able to predict the fight, like he's able to predict the fight before it even happens. So I do think that's pretty cool, showing him either being really smart, or he's just someone that is able to just have a lot of luck on his side. Either way, that's one of the jokes as well, and I think it's really funny. The action as well was pretty great, showing how they use Hamon and how it's a lot more evolved in a way than Part 1's. So I do think that was great. Also, the characters I thought were amazing. So aside from Joseph, you had Cesar, you had Lisa, you had everybody. I do wish we got to see more of Cesar's character, kind of seeing more of a backstory, which we did get a backstory of him, but I wish there was more to him. Such as when, for example, the episodes where he would train, and it looked like he had more training done than Joseph, but he didn't really get to fight that many people. And then when he did fight, he ended up losing. But I do think Caesar's character was pretty tragic, but I thought it was pretty cool, showing that his bloodline is always there to kind of help the Joestars in their time of need. Lisa's character was pretty interesting as well, how she ends up adapting and even upgrading the whole Hamon thing as well. And she ends up teaching it to both Cesar and Joseph. So we get to see what they're both capable of. And finding out that Lisa's the mother of Joseph was a twist as well. Also, when it comes to the characters, we do have to mention the Pillar Men from both AC/DC, Wamuu, and Cars. Now, I thought that the whole idea of the Pillarmen's backstory, how they existed for a long time, created the stone mask, which kind of kicks off Part 1, so almost it's like if that didn't happen, if they didn't create the mask, then Part 1 wouldn't have existed. So I do think that was pretty interesting to show. And it showed how Cars wanted to live forever and kind of show his people what eternal life would be like. But they didn't like the idea, and so he had to attack them. And then throughout the story, we find that Wamuu is more of a respected and more of a respectable, humble kind of fighter, where he'll end up fighting and show respect out of it. And when he ends up beating Cesar, he shows his gratitude towards him and doesn't insult him and says that he'll remember this fight forever. Also, I want to mention the soundtrack. The soundtrack was amazing, which you'd have soundtracks from when JoJo is preparing an attack, Cars' theme song for when he's starting to, I guess, almost like a resurrection, when he's becoming perfect Cars. That theme song, when that kicks off, was pretty great. Von Stroheim's theme song is great as well. On top of that, which it's the most iconic out of all of Part 2, the Pillarman theme song. That's probably the best one. There are so many things to talk about when it comes to Part 2. And I can always watch it and never get bored. I have seen it for maybe about 3 or 4 times. Not back to back, but just in total. And it's just great. Like, it's really great. And how it leads into Part 3 was nice as well. Also, at the end of Part 2, they do kind of give each character their own conclusions as to what happens to them. So I do think that was great as well. And for Part 3, I won't talk too much about it, although Joseph is in Part 3, but I won't discuss too much about it, or really discuss about it at all. Kind of just let you watch it and see how you feel about it. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That's all I wanted to kind of discuss about what I thought about Part 2. Everything was pretty great. If you haven't seen Part 2, definitely go check it out. And if you haven't seen it in a while, hopefully this video kind of remind you about it. With that being said, this has been Diamond Legend, and I'm off.